Well, can you believe it? Your very first podcast.
Here we are.
Well, the reason I reached out to you, it's funny, I reach out to people sometimes on LinkedIn, people that jump off the page at me a little bit, who are sharing some positivity, and you are one of those people, because I look at a lot of your posts and I really enjoy them. You share different posts on leadership, family, work, industry, all this kind of stuff, but they're always very positive. So I thought, well, shoot, man, I'll reach out to her and just see if she'll want to sit down with me for a few minutes.
Well, thank you. That's really nice to hear.
Well, why don't
I
you,
really enjoy your posts too,
oh,
actually, especially that one about why being a pipeliner is the best thing. It was very
mm,
amusing.
I tell so many people, it's so sad, it'll break your heart. There are some people who will go their whole life and never have the chance to work pipeline. Like, it's enough to choke you up, eh? Like, anyway, it's been a gift in my life, and it's been even on LinkedIn. I started really posting maybe about a year or so more ago, and I just found it a really great place to connect with other people in the industry, basically. And I found a really nice community of very supportive people, so it's been really nice.
Yeah, it's really good actually, and I think that's what drew me to your posts originally. I saw my husband kind of interacting with them, and they crossed my feed, and they're so heartwarming, right? Because in that industry, I think there's a lot of tough things, and it can be hard, right? These guys are away, they're on the road, they're away from their families, they're facing all kinds of difficult situations, and sometimes it can be hard to find support, right? And connect with people, as we all deal with. But in that industry specifically, I've definitely at least been exposed to seeing that a little bit more than the average industry. So your
hmm
posts and connecting with people and building that community has been really inspirational. So
Well, thank you. I definitely
yeah.
appreciate that. I mean, you having a bit more of a unique insight into some of these challenges, unless you're involved very intimately with a company or certainly a marriage that has involved somebody, whether it's a guy or girl, away for a prolonged period of time, and you don't really know some of the challenges. I mean, Sweet Marie, we're about to be empty nesters here, so I'm very aware of a lot of other pipeliners. You go home and you're trying to fit into a family dynamic, every month or two with a going schedule and kids and sports and life. And you don't want to rock that boat too badly, but, that's part of life. You miss everyone so much. So you want to just dive in with both feet, but it's like jumping on a moving train. It's not that easy always.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, we obviously go through those periods of transition both ways, right? When your spouse leaves to go away, there's a bit of a transition. And then when they come home, it's a bigger transition, right? Because like you said, they want to be the good husband and father and all of the things. So I mean, kind of the running joke in our house is everyone has to know their place, and the house is mine. Like,
No, yeah.
so, but it is, you get really comfortable with how you run things, right? So I'm used to um, how and when I clean and how I meal prep or cook or look after our family and scheduling things, right? So I can appreciate for the person that's working away that that must be really difficult to come home to and kind of feel like it's hard to fit in with these people that you know so well and love, right? I mean, Christopher himself does a fantastic job at it, but it is something that happens, right? And I have friends whose spouses are in the military, for instance, and they go through the same type of thing, right?
I've
When you
heard that.
have a spouse that works away, it's difficult reintegrating, right? You have to have rules, I find, even just for the reintegration, as silly as that may sound.
No, it's not silly at all. I would say it's never been hard for me. It's more just being conscious of it. And I've talked to
Yeah.
other pipeliner, and they're the same thing. They say it's not hard. They're just very aware of it. I know
Yeah.
in my marriage, what I like to do after I've been away for about 6 weeks is go home, and as soon as my wife's cooking dinner, I like to stand immediately in front of all the cupboards she's trying to open and all the drawers she's trying to open. Just get in the way immediately to get it out of the way.
Yeah.
So tell us about yourself. Where'd you grow up? You could, whatever.
Where did I
It's happy
grow
to
up?
talk to you.
So I am. I'm originally from Ontario. So, and I'm originally from Toronto. So that doesn't usually go over well originally the first time somebody that's born and raised in Alberta hears that.
Well,
But
where in Ontario? Actually Toronto or somewhere else?
yeah, so I was born in Etobicoke, lived in
Okay.
North York, Newmarket, the GTA for a number of years, and then lived in Muskoka for a number of years. My
Oh,
parents had kind of done
beautiful.
like a semi-retirement, and it's so beautiful there.
Oh,
It
so
really, really
beautiful.
is. Yeah. So, and then when I moved here, I moved from Barrie with my two daughters. Um, Muskoka didn't have a lot of opportunity at the time. Toronto obviously is chaotic and expensive. So as a single mom raising two children, Barrie was a nice happy medium. And we're coming up to 9 years here pretty soon, actually, of when that transition took place. So settled in Lacombe originally. Met my husband Christopher while I was looking for work and settling into Alberta. And then we moved to Edmonton a year later, and the rest is kind of history.
Where do where are your mom and dad still in Ontario?
My mom and dad have actually passed away.
Sorry to
So
hear that.
something that Christopher and I kind of went through together during the first couple of years of our relationship is we both lost parents to cancer. So we were able to support each other through that process. And also you kind of really get to know people when you're going through something hard like that, right? So we had some very unique and interesting perspectives that, fairly young and fairly new into a relationship threw some curveballs at us, but it definitely, I think, made us stronger in the long run for experiencing that, right?
Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Like just yesterday, I picked up my mom from the airport. She lives on the island, and I talked to Sweet Marie about, I can say not 2 weeks ago. I said, "Hey, babe, do you mind if I'd like to see my mom. Maybe we could fly her out here for a couple weeks or whatever." And yeah, for sure. And it sounds good because there's flights and money and chaos and everything's involved, but I'm very hyper aware and conscious about spending that time with your folks while you can, for sure.
Yeah.
So I definitely appreciate what you're saying.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you recognize that, right? It's so easy to get caught up in the hustle and bustle of life. And I mean, kind of coming up to being empty nesters, you surely know that feeling of how different things are going to be as your children kind of get into their own lives, but hoping that that connection still remains and you see them often enough. We're starting to sort of come up to that. So I know right now I don't want to say cling, but I kind of do. Anytime the girls, for instance, want to spend time with me, I'm like, oh yeah, like I will cancel anything to hang out with you because you go through those. You never know when it's the last time, right? And it's the same thing with your parents as they start to age, right? So we have, out of our four parents, we just have Christopher's mom at this point, and we just adore and treasure every moment that we have with her, right? So Christmas is kind of the biggest time we get together, and we spend at least a week together, and it's always so lovely. But you definitely have to cherish those moments, and I'm glad to
No,
hear that you
for
guys
sure.
recognize that.
No, for sure. I read. I'm just trying to think. We were out at Marie's folks' cabin out in Fairmont over the Christmas and New Year's, and so we always pop into Kimberly and walk around with the kids, and I just soak it up, Megan. Like I read anyway as I'm kind of walking around. You're playing on your phone, and I read this. For me, it really resonated, the thing on just Instagram or whatever, and it was like we get so preoccupied with our life, and you watch your kids grow, and you don't realize as it's all happening, oh, your parents are getting older too. So it's happening at both, and you're kind of caught in the middle, and it just helped me just quick reminder to be present of those things. And I'm very grateful and have a good relationship with the kids. And we dropped off one kid's been out of the house for a few years now, and the other one is we dropped him off at Victoria for his first semester of school just this past September long weekend. And I remember giving him a hug just because Marie was in Edmonton at a concert with her friends. So I drove down from Prince George with Trek from the job, dropped him off, and I remember giving him like a big hug as I dropped him off. And I remember thinking, holy shit, man, I gotta get out of here. I'm gonna start crying. Like, I'm like, holy smokes, tough.
It is tough, right? Yeah. Our oldest daughter just recently went to San Francisco. She plays handball with Team Alberta. And so as exciting as that is, yeah, I was like, well, can I drive you to the airport? Even though it was, like a 3:30, 4 a.m. drop off. And it's hard even at that like they're just spreading their wings and having so much fun, right? They're going to go
sure.
do these incredible things that you've helped prepare them for. But it's bittersweet, those moments, right?
For sure, and because you are proud of them, because you can see them not just spreading their wings, you see them succeeding, like actually doing it. So they're not just spreading their wings; they're succeeding. They're being successful, and they're doing as much or more than you could have ever hoped. And to watch it happen, yeah, it's definitely bittersweet. But man alive, so Marie's folks, they're retired, and Apple on the Apple Photos always generates these little albums for you. So he sends one to us probably almost every day of the family and the kids. And I just like every time I see those little pictures of those little people, and again, you just want to scoop them up and man alive. And then you start to figure, it's like, okay, well, I get why grandkids are so popular because it gives you a chance to do it again. But this time your eyes are open, how special it is,
Yeah, that's fair.
So tell me about this. I was reading something about you're a virtual assistant, but I didn't quite know what that meant.
Yeah, so I own Canada's Virtual Assistant. So basically, what it does is anything you would hire out for administrative purposes to support your team, you can hire virtually, right? I think people kind of really started to notice that during COVID. But these types of businesses have been around since before COVID. They've become more popular. Remote work has become more popular. So if you need somebody to kind of create reports, presentations, do project management, bookkeeping, manage your email, some people, a lot of high level executives especially, just have like out of control email inboxes, right? So it seems minor, but filters only go so far. So we help with things like that as well. And the long game with the company is, Christopher does pipeline and he does work away from home. And we are coming up in a few years to our kids doing whatever they're going to do with their lives. And I don't need to be home anymore, right? So instead of having a spouse that works away and being home by myself, I'm building this business so that I can make sure that if I want to go away to work with him, I can do that. Or if we want to travel more, we can do that, right? And kind of have a sustainable business.
Yeah, I know the world has changed. It's so funny, after COVID, we rented an office downtown, and it was just a year into COVID. No, a year before COVID started, and then you realize very quickly, oh, a lot of these brick and mortar buildings for offices, they just, it doesn't make sense for us small businesses anyway.
Yeah.
And even now, so even the office I'm sitting here in Kensington, like, not that nobody comes here, but Kenny moved to the farm, Dave's in Ontario. I think Dustin moved to Mexico or Colombia. Like, just Peck stays at home. Is all, like, nobody comes. So I got all this little podcast set up because nobody's around. But yeah, it's a different world. I will share with you, Marie came up with me and went, so she's always been a pipeliner, always done estimating, pipeline, subcontracts, commercial stuff. So she's always done that. But now, last summer, she came up with me pipelining the first time. So we were up in Prince George area, and she spent the whole summer from May to September, I think, with me. and to try to get back for September when Journey started school, because that's grade 12 and she wanted to be there, and that's super important. And but man, it was awesome. Like I really hope you guys get that chance and consider doing it, because just to be together and pipelining special anyway, community group and go
Yeah.
team and all this, but to do it with your spouse there, I just can't say enough about it. I thought it was awesome, and I hope you get that chance.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I'm glad that you guys were able to do that.
I would say it was always probably the plan, but just to see it actually happen, and it was pretty exciting. Are you and Chris, you guys talk a lot with the other pipeline friends about how it's a bit of a slower time right now?
I mean, we have for sure. Christopher's more involved in those conversations than I am, obviously. I'm kind of at arm's length in a way, if you will, right? Being the wife and not actively working pipeline. But I definitely know over the past year, there's been, lots of conversation about that, right? And you see it on LinkedIn, and I think that's something you've even shared about and Christopher shared about on LinkedIn, right? So it's a tricky time, right? And I think like any industry, it ebbs and flows, obviously, right? But yeah, it's tricky and it's sad, right? You see all kinds of things happen when you go through those slow periods, right? And there's good that comes of it, and there can be some negative that comes from it. But the best part is when you see people reaching out to each other and talking about it, right? And knowing that they're not alone, because people quickly can feel that way and they think maybe it's only them, right? So when people are talking and open, it's just so much better to support each other and your friends through those periods.
And again, I think that was one of the things that kind of drew me to you, was kind of those positive posts, and she even sharing the ones that encourage people with mental health. And again, it's just talking about it, making it more normal, and
Yeah.
just so people do feel comfortable putting up their hand. Because I'm sure for the first time someone puts up their hand in private and says, you know what, yeah, okay, maybe I'm not doing great. It's like jumping off a cliff, I've been told. It's just so, to throw it out there, you almost can't take it back. But, I have been told by multiple people, once, it's like a tattoo, once you get one or say it the first time, it gets easier.
Fair enough. I'm not a big tattoo person, so I don't know, but I can appreciate that sentiment for sure. That resonates, right? Yeah, it's so important. People bottle things up, and I think our generation is kind of the catalyst for that, right? Our parents before us don't understand, and they definitely didn't do that, right? But we're kind of feeling our way through it, and then our children are coming into this world. It's so natural for them, like we have teenagers that in ways are more emotionally mature than most 40 and 50-year olds, right? Because it's a natural evolution that's taken place in their life. It's very normal for them. um, and it's nice to see the transition, because you don't have to pretend that you're okay, right? And we all go through times, and we do have support systems, so it's really great to see.
Oh, right on. Well, it's funny, Meg, I don't really have too much other stuff I wanted to talk to you. To be honest with you, I just wanted to meet you and spend a few minutes with you, and
Yeah.
just encourage you to keep doing what you're doing and keep spreading the positivity. And you have any other words of encouragement for anyone else out there before we part ways?
I think just remembering that you're not alone, right? There's always a support network for you. And I mean, David himself is a great one. I don't think anybody would ever reach out to you and not feel supported. What you've shared and what you've established within the industry and on LinkedIn is just monumental, and people appreciate it and they talk about it. And we all have that, so make sure that you reach out. You're not alone, and you can do it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Maybe next time you're through Calgary, I can convince you to come over to the studio here and sit down with me. We'll do another one in person.
Yeah, for sure. That sounds great.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for your time. I hope podcast experience wasn't too painful for you, and we'll look forward to the next time.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Have a good day.
All right, you too, my friend.
Okay. Bye.